Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome you all to ABP Education Admission Quiz. There is a saying that tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare well for that today. It is time for the students to prepare for making their career choices, especially for the students who are in their high school days. Today's discussion is going to be immensely helpful for those students who are preparing to pursue their career in the domains of science. Today we will be discussing emerging career opportunities for science students. And to contribute to this topic, we have three esteemed personalities whose contribution to varied fields of science is phenomenal. I'm delighted to introduce Major General Professor Dr. P.K. Patnaik. He is the principal for KIEMS and director for School of Medicine. Dr. Patnaik, we are delighted to have here you with us. We're delighted to introduce Dr. Shayok Bhattacharya, Founder Director, Center for National Policy Research. Mr. Bhattacharya, it's a pleasure to have you among the stars. And we're also delighted to welcome Dr. Sangeeta Banka, who is the Dean Academics for Manav Ratna University and also a professor from the Department of Chemistry. And I'll be moderating the session, the panel with all of you. To introduce myself, I'm Professor Chondrama Roy, professor from the Department of Electronics and Communications, Heritage Institute of Technology. Delighted to have you all, respected panelists. Before we go to the details of this discussion, I take this opportunity to thank you all once again from the bottom of my heart. And I'm sure that your contribution, valued suggestions, opinions, outputs are going to help immensely the students to make the career choices they're preferring to crave for. So we would like to start with Dr. Banga. Dr. Banga, there has been a phenomenal change in the ecosystem in terms of everything, including education. And the new education policy reflects a high degree of changes implementing higher education, especially in the domain of engineering, technology, or general degree courses of science. How do you look at it? What are your insights regarding that, if you can kindly share? Over to you, Dr.
Background
Banga.
noise क्यों आ रहा है?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Professor Chandrima, for such a nice introduction and including me in this important discussion. So, what you have asked about is what are my views about how the education ecosystem is changing and how the trends in engineering and sciences are changing, what we are foreseeing for future generations to take up as their career. So if we all rewind our lives to past 5-7 years, it would make us realize how most of the things have changed, and similarly our education ecosystem. So if I go back to any program structure of any of the program that was offered 10 years back, and if you look at those programs that most of the universities were offering, these programs structures are very rigid structures where student has very less choice for selecting the courses of their own choice. But today we all are talking about holistic education, multidisciplinary approach, and today knowledge is not restricted to what faculty delivers within the four walls, but is available to every student at the click of a mouse. So information is flowing everywhere. Knowledge is being created every moment and is available to everyone. So role of faculty is more of a facilitator and mentor, and education has become more learner-centric. Even our new education policy 2020 that is going to be implemented soon is also focused on these aspects like skill-based education, and even we are talking about multiple entry, multiple exit option for the students, where even student who has certain issues and they want to leave a course after 1 or 2 years of their degree program, they can leave it, but they will be leaving with certain skills in hand, so they are employable. So employability is focus, skill is the focus right now. It's not just you have to get the degree without any skill. So when we think about the career in sciences, the first few words that comes to everyone's mind is engineering, medicine, dentistry, physiotherapy, or architecture, but we forget about the fact that the career in these fields are also evolving. So it is better to stay updated with the career trends and sciences that are highly creative and emerging with modern age. If I talk about engineering, most of the students today, they are fascinated with computer science and technology. And there are two buzzwords, artificial intelligence and machine learning. So be it voice recognition system like Siri and Alexa that uses the power of machine learning to understand human language and respond to intelligently to it, or it's Facebook that recognize familiar faces from your contact list through its algorithm and automatically makes accurate suggestions for tagging your friends. So it's everywhere now. And if you look at the trends, the hiring of artificial intelligence position has grown 74% in the last 4 years, and it is further going to increase. Another emerging area is big data, data science, data analytics. So data exists everywhere in many forms. Any online purchases from the store, the type of accounts you follow on your Instagram, or the word you search on Google are all data. This data is valued by the organizations because it helps them to understand the patterns and trends to set business decisions accordingly. So BTech degree in computer science or even BSc or MSc with specialization in statistical analysis will help a student to develop skills in programming language such as Python, Java, Perl, etc. If you look at the government organization as well as private companies, they have seen 30 to 35% rise in the demand of for statistical experts. Also venture into artificial intelligence by learning the applications of statistics and data. So as more and more digitization is happening in every business, or last 1.5 years, we have seen this digitization being taking place in the area of education also. And today also we are connected online for this webinar. So businesses are becoming more vulnerable than ever to cyber crimes and threats. So thus ethical hackers and cybersecurity experts are very important in helping companies improve their internet security. And the cyber security sector is likely to grow by 28% by 2026.
Yes.
So in addition to these, everything that we do on our phones, calling, reading books, or placing order for our foods, playing games, and other multiple activities that we do, all these applications are designed and programmed by individuals who are proficient in the field of coding and design. And these individuals have knowledge about computer languages such as HTML5, PHP, .NET, Java, Android and iOS design principle, human interface, etc. These skills help to develop mobile applications, games, and people can become expert as app developer. Adding further to this, during COVID, we all have experienced how the manufacturing sector, where most of the tasks that needed human intervention, has impacted a lot. So with the advent of robotics, such issues can be taken care of. The world is gradually moving towards developing such techniques that are relatively independent of human interventions. This also means that future workforce that is required by many of the industries are supposed to be differently skilled. The engineer who is going to pass out today, obviously he has to be a lifelong learner so that he is able to survive there in the industry for next 30 years. So robotics and automation is not only required in manufacturing industry, but robots are already being used to explore space, perform surgeries, defuse bombs, and perform tasks that might be dangerous for humans to perform. So engineers of robotics, they must acquire knowledge of mechanical engineering, electronics, computer, artificial intelligence, machine learning, neural networks. So it's not that a robotic engineer need to know only electronics. He needs to know all the areas which are very important for him to become an expert here. So as per experts, some jobs will be entirely automated by 2050. However, new jobs will emerge in unexpected ways, in unexpected fields that don't even exist today. So that is going to be the future. So as more processes are being automated, there is also a great demand for the control system engineers and people who are experienced in microelectronics. Internet of Things has been pretty big in the last few years, and people are discovering how they can use that to their advantage. And this has led to increased use of radio frequency identification and introduction of more wireless and smart devices. Some experts, they predict that by 2050, there won't be a single human working on construction sites or a factory. Wearable technology will become the commonplace. Concrete and steel will be replaced by smart materials. Buildings may be constructed of entirely different material, allow them to respond to stimuli rather than being passive structures only. So self-healing materials, antibacterial coatings, and other that can turn your wall into solar panels so that our cities can generate the energy that we are going to run on. So any material that can listen or even absorb the carbon emission will be high in demand. So students who are pursuing degree in pure sciences or have interest for research in sciences can look for the areas of new material, nanomaterials, nanotechnology, smart materials, organic solar cells, environment and sustainability for providing sustainable solutions to many existing problems in the interest of our future generations. If I talk about a civil engineer of tomorrow who is going to build smart home, he is not supposed to have only the knowledge of civil engineering. He should be aware about the different materials, like smart materials I talked about, what material can replace concrete and steel, sensors for building smart homes to include IoT in that, thermals, everything is required, knowledge is required. So be it the knowledge of electronics or computers or mechanical, that is also required by a civil engineer. So COVID has also shown us the real status of our healthcare system. And with population like ours, it is becoming increasingly apparent that our healthcare system not only need to be equipped to handle the potential number of cases that may come through, but also there is urgent need to invest in the biosciences industries. So post-COVID, it would be wise that we should focus more on research and development in biological science, and it is no doubt going to increase. Some of the biological sciences courses and skills that one should consider, as these are going to be more popular in demand in the years to come, are virology. This is a field that is going to have a lot of takers since we never know what is prowling in the shadows. Which new virus will come again and disturb our life. So another promising field is epidemiology. Food technology is again the upcoming field which deals with the production, processing, packaging, and distribution of food. And in the pandemic-like situation, most of the people look for non-perishable items that can last a few months on a minimum. So food technologists can use innovative ideas to help a nation becoming self-sufficient. Similarly, there's a lot of scope in the area of vaccine design and drug development, because this is right now more fascinating area of research for anybody who is interested in chemistry or life sciences. And when we started talking about coronavirus, the first question that came to everyone's mind was, is there a vaccine for this or not? So vaccine design and drug development is not an easy process. We all have seen how difficult it is. So judging by how fast a virus is known to mutate, we'll always be in need of newer vaccines in the years to come. Similarly, bioengineering is one of the youngest engineering disciplines, employing the principles and tools of engineering for solving problems in biology, healthcare, medicine, and related fields. artificial organs, tissue engineering, medical imaging, biomaterials, and even wearable technologies like fitness tracking bands are all examples of bioengineering in the real world. One more area which is very upcoming is sports medicine. Professionals of this field are trained to help athletes improve their sports performance, prevent injuries while playing and managing their training and nutrition. So psychologists, physical therapists, sport nutritionalists, exercise physiologists, athletic trainers, all fall under this category. This has a huge scope. It is only going to increase in the future with the rise of sport culture in India. So courses like Master's in Sports Medicine or MA in Sports Psychology, Master's Sciences and Sports Sciences can help any candidate enter this area if they are interested. And lastly, I would like to share one thing is that today during COVID situation, education is being delivered online. Many of the students must be thinking, how is it possible to acquire these technical skills which require more hands-on? But let me share that the last 1.5 years has not stopped many of the good institutions to deliver effectively. Simultaneously, there are many simulations of virtual labs and many other platforms available to students to provide remote access to lab various disciplines of science and engineering. This has helped them in learning concepts, remote experimentation, and gaining a similar experience of actual lab sessions. Augmented reality and virtual reality with new things, and now people are doing it, are further adding to this experience. And you'll be surprised to know that one of the country used virtual reality experience to facilitate safe training of staff to treat coronavirus patients. So this is how we are using technology and has been used so recently. So science and technology is evolving at a much faster pace, and we therefore need to let go of the traditional mindset, and we have to think out of the box to find innovative solutions to the way forward. Lifelong learning is essential for every body, and half-life for knowledge or in science and technology is just 3 to 5 years. So whatever we are teaching you or whatever you are studying today is becoming obsolete. So you all have to be a lifelong learner. The devastating spread of COVID-19 has touched every aspect of our lives and has been full of challenges, but it has also come along with lots and lots of opportunities for positive change. So with this message, I would like to end my talk here, and I would like to thank you for being there and patiently listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Banga. It was wonderful listening to you, and I was taking notes myself that yes, so detailed observation in terms of varied domains of career opportunities. You talked right from machine learning, artificial intelligence, to food technology, virology, ending up with IoT and AR/VR computation. So it was really a delight to listen to you. Just a humble request. So whenever we come back to you again, if you can kindly sit with your video setup, so we get to hear and see you in a better way. So thank you for your insightful contribution to the discussion. And with that, may I please request Dr. T.K. Patnaik to share his insights about choosing a career, what a career is, how we should actually pick and make choices in terms of a career, and what exactly are the points that one should keep in mind before opting for a career opportunity, even on a varied domain of science he has got varied interests for. So, Dr. Patnaik, it's all yours. We all look forward to this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me in the panel. I hope some students and their parents are also online and are listening. Instead of going directly to the topic, I will give a little pragmatic view of a person's career and few pearls of wisdom which we have gathered in the life's experience that should be passed to the next generation. So pardon me if I sound very generic and pragmatic before coming to the topic. Now, students and the listeners, you will agree with me that all of us, our life takes a course when what decision we take when we come in life on a crossroad. When we come on a crossroad, which path we take, probably that ultimately decides our life. Well, after +2, if you decide to do humanities, you become something else. You decide to take science, become something else. With the Indian system of education and many countries, you probably cannot change the lines of commerce or humanities or science. Similarly, in science, when you become an engineer, it's very difficult to become a biologist. So, you must take a decision very thoughtfully that what I want to become or which path I want to follow. Having said that, I will tell you, no line is bad. Every line is good. How much well you do in that line, that's it matters. You can become a researcher, you can become a practitioner, you can become a famous engineer. Every line is good. What is important is how much good you do in that line, that is important. Like Darwin said, survival of the fittest. It is not survival of the most adaptable individual. And he is the survivor who is smartest. Like the virus is surviving a mutation by adapting, you have to adapt to the changes that happens in your lifetime, or will it happen in lifetime. Similarly, we all suffer from a syndrome that is known as WWPT syndrome. What is WWPT syndrome? What will people think? If I go to hotel management line, what will people think? If I become a veterinary doctor, what will people think? No, take out that. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam wanted to become a pilot. He could not become. He became the missile man of India. Dr. Kiran Majumdar, the famous biotechnologist, wanted to become a doctor. He became much, much, much more than the doctor. Manek Shah's parents wanted him to be a doctor, but he rose to become field marshal. So, don't think that what others people think about me, what you think about yourself, please go in that career. And I always advise you that it is better to become a big fish in a small pond rather than a small fish in a big pond. That is not the correct thing. Do not want to become big quickly. You become a small fish in a big pond, then later in life, you will become a big fish in a small pond. And remember, there is always a conflict in your mind about the institution and the subject. No institution is 100% good, and no institution is 100% bad. So, if there is a institution, there will be islands of excellence. Like Madras IIT, mechanical may be the best. Delhi IIT, electrical may be the best. So, when it comes to an institution and a subject, you have to make a difficult choice whether the institution should have a priority or your subject should have a priority. And always decide which areas, because in a limited mind, with a limited time, you cannot know everything. Wherever you are, you must develop the must-know areas, good-to-know areas, and optional learning. Okay? So, For that, you should spend time with people who are better than you. And I will advise you, never quit. Winners never quit, quitters never win. So persistence will pay. And it is said that not your aptitude, it is your attitude which will decide your altitude. So keep your attitude correct. People will say, aim for the moon, at least you will come to the rooftop. I will advise that you must see achievable dreams. And seeing achievable dreams doesn't become true. You have to work for it. And there is no substitute for hard work. If your parents are listening, they will understand these things better. Then they will explain you sentence by sentence when you go home. So, see achievable dreams and work for it. You see, initially, every one of us is confused. You see in the old time cameras, you do not focus well. By rotating here and there, clockwise, anti-clockwise, you focus on something. Once you focus something, there is no end to it. So once the focus is done, what picture you want to take, so don't rest, because resting is rusting. Beautiful. So, like my previous speaker told, lifelong learner, I say unless you periodically upgrade your skills, you will be written off. Earlier we were teaching information is knowledge, knowledge is power. Nowadays the knowledge, if not accompanied by skill, you are nothing. Only mere knowledge will not help. So according to our cognitive field, your psychomotor skills are equally important and connected with your attitude. So the medicals have come with the ATCOM module. The attitude and compassion model of education to the doctors. Similarly, remember, the society where you serve is more important. You can have the knowledge of global, but be local. What is happening in Johns Hopkins, you may not be able to practice it in your city, which is 2-tier city or 3-tier city. So you have the knowledge of everything, but what is suitable to that particular location, to the particular company, to the particular patient, please do that. And coming to that career, nowadays is the era of the hybrid careers or bridging options. If you want to become a doctor, you can become a medical doctor and have a degree in the law. The Medical Jurisprudence and Consumer Protection Act is a very good branch. Medical degree with MBA is another field upcoming. The medical and health technology is another research analysis, and medical and hospital administration is another line. So it need not be new areas, but basic areas you can go and you can migrate, or you can get into a hybrid career or a bridging career. And in medical, I will tell you, medical is a very nice field. There are few reasons I'll tell you. Healthcare is bound to increase in this country and whole world. It cannot stop. The undergraduate medical seats are 54,000 today, and now it has become 80,000 as on today 2020, and another 4 years government is planning to increase it to 1,10,000 per year. And similarly, the postgraduate seats, which were 24,000, now it has become 54,000. Government is trying to increase it to 1 lakh by 24. These are the new teaching models, and these are how the health sector is going to expand. It is bound to expand. It cannot be held back. So, but as I told you, I was told to do a little bit of the medical side. Medical field is a very big ocean. You can choose a field in medicine according to your choices. It gives you a non-clinical side, it gives you a paraclinical side, it gives you a clinical side. If you want to take a back seat, comfortable, not too much of tension, good attention to the children, fixed time of working, no midnight call duties, you go for a non-clinical, become a medical teacher. You want a moderate career, some practice, some tension, but less than the clinician, you can go for a paraclinical. Microbiology, pathology, pharmacology, forensic medicine. If you want a busy career, if you want to become rich and famous, go for a clinical subject. And in the clinical, there are four aspects. You can do a clinical work, you can be a good teacher, you can do good research and good publication. So the medical field is such an ocean. It provides you a basic degree and a field of choice according to your requirement and need and aim in life. Plus, you have choice to choose a path yet to become a doctor, practitioner, researchers. Similarly, like biomedical engineers, the pharmaceuticals, and the hybrid careers are in the order of the day. You go from the routine. So as I told in the beginning, no line, no career is bad. How much good you do in that line, that matters. And you have to adapt to the newer needs. I don't want to repeat the robotics and the artificial intelligence and all these things. Whatever the improvement happens, your basic foundation has to be good. And for that foundation, not only you must choose a good institution, and you must choose a good department. And nowadays, teachers are no more teachers, they are just facilitators. And you, in your life, you must find a role model who will mentor you, who will shape you. You are a stone. You have to take out chisel out the unnecessary parts from your body to make you an idol. So there is nothing to despair. World will advance. Viruses come, viruses go. World will bloom again. But you concentrate on your studies. And remember, quitters never win. Winners never quit.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I remember my early university days when I used to have such lectures from my professor. And when I become a professor myself, I still yet remember that making any career opportunity, these are the fundamental words that actually do shape the careers that we all aspire for. Yes, I solely agree to what Professor Dr. C.K. Patnaik said, that no career is good, no career is bad. What accounts at the end is what is the contribution significantly you are being able to make and mark on. So with that, we will move on to a person who is our next speaker, Dr. Shahid Bhattacharya. He has got veteran experiences of working in various universities across the globe. He has had his PhD, 15 years of academic career, but decided to set up something of his own and something which is a kind of a non-conventional education in terms of science education. Center for National Policy and Research. Simon, can we please have the delight to listen to your valued lecture right now? I'd request all the speakers to kindly restrict their presentation, their deliverables to the time so that we can get into the questions that are coming up from the student side, and we can also move on for further cross-sectoral discussion. Over to you, Simon. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm audible.
Dr. Bhattacharya, over to you.
Thank you, Professor Chandrima, and a very good afternoon to all. A very good afternoon to all panelists and my dear students. And so we have been hearing Dr. Patnaik, and he has made a very, very pertinent point that while choosing a career, don't think about what others will think. It's your career, it's your prerogative, and you know the best what you are good at. So today's career policy, the policy the government is working on is actually based on choice-based education and skill-based education. So you choose what you're good at, and at the end of the day, when you apply to a company, when you go to any employer, your skill matters. Whatever knowledge, whatever degree you have made, that is fine. But at the end of the day, the skill you have acquired throughout your studying days, that is the ultimate thing which matters. So when we start with at the threshold, when we are in the class 12, we have various questions in our mind.
Dr. Bhattacharya, I'm sorry to interrupt, but your video is not visible to us. Can you just listen to that?
So just a moment. It's visible?
Yeah.
So when we are starting at the threshold of class 12, we have various questions on our mind. And first and foremost, what are the sustainable careers in the coming decade? Careers which will keep on throwing jobs in the coming decade. And secondly, what are the careers which will lead to the most highest paying jobs in the coming decade? Thirdly, careers which can lead me to abroad, which can lead me to a job in US, a job in Australia, or a job in the European countries. And fourthly, a career where the competition is a bit less. We don't want a career where you go for a job application and find more than 500 guys with a qualification better than you waiting in line. So this is very, very important, because when students come to me that we have an option for a career in IoT, we have an option for a career in cybersecurity. Which one we will opt for? So this is very, very important to think that when a company hires graduates for IoT, then it will look for freshers, it will look for fresh ideas, and no matter if there is a failure in production, it will again rework its strategy. But yeah, freshers are more than welcome. But when a company, suppose a Tata or a Accenture or a big company, Wipro, they're hiring cybersecurity experts, everyone will look for someone who has a bit of background, a bit of experience, and a strong amount of knowledge and experience combined in that field. Then a fresher is not that much welcome. So again, you have to keep that in mind. For a career in cybersecurity, it is no matter a great career, but you have to put in the years, you have to gather in the experience before you get a pay package which you are expecting after graduation. Same thing for a career in law. It also applies that for a first-time lawyer, it's a bit of time-taking career to get your feet on the line. And again, the pay packages and other things come on as your experience starts adding up. So we have heard Dr. Banga and Dr. Patnaik speak about the professional courses from engineering and the medicine. So I will start with a bit of the generic courses or the general courses, which are the not so glamorous ones. Suppose what happens when I think of to be a teacher. Down the line, someone wants to be a teacher. So it's best you opt for a subject in graduation, which you find easy, which you find best suited to you. And then you go for a master's, because most of the states are looking for masters. Then you go for a B.Ed degree, and fine, by the age of 25, you're perfect to apply for a position of teacher. Why I'm saying this? Because in most cases, what happens is someone tries to be a researcher, someone tries to be an X, Y, and Z, and there we experience failures, we experience delays, and then we come back, okay, so let's go and become a teacher, it might be easier. No, if you want to be a teacher, what's wrong in that? So plan your career accordingly, graduation, master's, B.Ed, and you are done. Suppose you're looking for a government job, you want to be an IAS, IPS, IFS, railways, or similar career, you're looking for the UPSC route. Fine, that's also perfectly fine. So go for a graduation route, and along with that, right from day one, start your preparation for the competitive services exam, and be in touch with history, civics, geography, which you have studied all along up to class 12. And then right after your graduation, start appearing for the UPSC exams. But one thing you have to keep in mind, if you're appearing for UPSC exams, you have to keep a plan B in mind, right? So first attempt, second attempt, if things don't click, then maybe I go for the railways, I go for a state PCS, I go for a bank PO, or whatever it is. The government jobs are huge, possibilities are huge. But yes, if you're appearing for UPSC, keep a plan B in mind. Thirdly, If someone says that I want to go ahead and become a professor or lecturer or a scientist, so it's a long drawn thing. You have to keep in mind that you have to go through a graduation, go through a master's, then you have to clear a competitive exam, which is NET or GET, depending upon the general line or the engineering stream. And then you get an entrance to a PhD institute. And then again, it takes around 5 to 6 years for you to, or mainly 4 to 5 years to get a degree. And then you are eligible for a job. If you go to the teaching side, or if you go to the research side. But one thing again, here you have to keep in mind that while you are doing your PhD, you can't think that the person who was a backbencher in school is now a manager in a big firm and is earning this much pay packet, and what I am getting, only a fellowship. So again, these things are a bit demoralizing, but you have to keep in mind that I wanted to be a researcher, I wanted to be a scientist, I wanted to do something new for science. So I have to give my 7 to 8 years after +2, maybe till 27, 28 years, and then I'll get a good job. If I want, I can carry on with research in various institutions in India and abroad, or I can go for a teaching job. There are huge employment possibilities in both government and in private. It's a booming sector. So you have to be clear, I want to be a teacher, I want to appear for UPSC, or I want to go ahead and become a professor. So when you search the 3 most probable careers or the 3 most careers with the opportunities or sustainable careers, wherever in whichever country you want, 3 things will come up. One is teaching, second is agriculture, and third is nursing. Agriculture again is a booming career. It's a bit of an offside path. We don't have mostly that much of idea, but we can almost always go for an BSc in agriculture, BSc in dairies, BSc in fisheries, and again a BTech in agriculture and engineering management, and agriculture and dairy management. So the possibilities are huge. And after agriculture, if you know people who have done agriculture, you would be seeing that they're not sitting or waiting for a job. The job sectors in government, the job possibilities in private sectors, they're again huge. And in terms of accepting new people, the huge opportunities are present. So agriculture is one of the streams after your +2, you can always apply for, and there are various possibilities which are there in agriculture. So the careers I said, the food science, dairy science, plant science, all of them are there, and you can always
So
go
video
for,
is gone to the career once again.
maybe I'm experiencing.
Yeah,
Okay.
fine.
The second career which I said is nursing. Nursing is again, you might find that after doing an MBBS, a doctor is sitting or say for 6 months or 1 year looking for a particular opening or somewhere opening where he wishes to find himself, or a specialization he wishes to find himself in. But someone, it applies both for male and female nurses who has done a career in nursing, a GNM in nursing. You can do a diploma, you can do a 4 years basic degree, and you can also apply for a 2 years master specialization. If you have done nursing, the world is aging by the day. It applies to India, it applies to US, it applies to Australia. If you look at the job portals, the aging population or the people who are above 60 are more than the average population in both US, Australia, European countries especially, and also in India. And so there is a huge demand or huge gap of demand and supply between practicing nurses and the nurses required in the care economy. So nursing is again a wonderful career to go for if you wish to continue, if you have the passion to continue in it. But again, it's a very stressful career, maybe because of the odd time hours, and you have to have that passion and motivation to continue with it. And the opportunities once you complete the nursing, they're huge. I have seen it across the world, and nothing is comparable. So teaching, agriculture, nursing, these careers, because in engineering, there sometimes comes a boom, a boost in certain sectors. And again, after 10 to 20 years, in a cyclic way, there comes a saturation. But in the careers of teaching, agriculture, and nursing, you won't find a saturation, the demand is always far more than the supply. So coming after these three careers, there are other careers, interesting careers, which we normally don't tread across. The one of them is forensic science. Forensic science is again a career where you have immense opportunities. You can join the government sectors and you can join the private sectors where they have a huge requirement for forensic investigators, and a person who has just passing out doing his graduation or doing his master's from forensic science, they are immediately absorbed in the industry. And this is one. Secondly, you can also opt for architecture. Architecture again has, you can go for a role of a town planner. You can go for a, you can go for this, internal planning or internal beautifier roles. And so architecture, you have to appear for there is an entrance exam. Once you cross the entrance exam, and then there are huge career possibilities. So these are the few things which we normally don't consider that much after 12. And since I represent something, I represent an institution, the Center for National Research. If you think of certain offbeat careers that I want to create something, I want to contribute something, I want to think separately apart from what is being taught to us, you can always opt for public policy as a career. There are huge amount of institutions, there are huge amount of who are teaching public policy, graduation in public policy, masters in public policy, there is diploma in public policy. And after carrying out them, after going through the courses, you can opt for the private sector, which are mostly NGOs, and they are working in tandem with the government sectors. And there is again a huge demand for public policy specialists in India, in abroad, wherever you go. In US, there are around more than 2,000 think tanks who have a huge demand for public policy experts, people who understand public policy, people who can think, people who can analyze government policies, and people who can question. So you can obviously question once when you are aware of the public policy. Recently, we have seen various cases of Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp. They are getting in conflict with the government regarding their various data policies and regarding various cyber security policies. So to run an industry, to run an interactive industry where we're daily interacting with the public, interacting with data, dealing with data, you have to know the public policies in frame. You have to know the rules and regulations which govern a current any state, and so you have to be aware of certain things. And a career in public policy will open up huge frontiers, and sometimes some unknown. You can get some surprising opportunities, and it is something worth thinking of. So I
Dr.
would like
Bhattacharya,
to
we have some questions from the students. We will again come back to you.
yeah, right,
So now, can we please take forward the session? So we have some questions from the students, but before I move on to the questions, I'd like to know from each one of you. It has been a wonderful discussion because Dr. Bhattacharya talked about conventional career approach in comparison to offbeat career options like pursuing a professional course in making public policies, and we all know that GDPR by 2030 will be a mandate for all the countries to implement. So yes, you really can have a kind of an aspiring career for. But before we move on to the question segment that we have collected from the students, I'd like to ask from all of you, do you really find that conventional mindset kind of an education that if my son or my daughter is pursuing a kind of a science career, it has to be anyone out of the three pivotal ends. It has to be either engineering or doctorate, or it has to be a kind of a general degree course. There is a wide range of the gray area between these three keywords. How this mindset is changing if you look from the parental perspective. I'd like to listen from Dr. Banga first, since you are the Dean of Academic right now, and you have been dealing with students for the last 22 years. Dr. Banga, how do you see this change? You are muted, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes, please. Chandrima, the thing is that mindsets are changing, because if you look at the education system which is there right now, which is coming up, we are talking about choice-based credit system. That's what Dr. Bhattacharya also talked about. where students have the choices. So you want to pursue your degree, you want to become a professional, you can go for engineering, but you have some interest for music as well. So you can't leave it behind. So you are being given choice to pursue one course in music, or you want to do some culinary course, why not to do it? So if I have taken certain courses, or I've started with computer science engineering, but when we are saying choice-based credit system, tomorrow my interest is more towards electronics or mechanical. I'm moving toward design. I want to do certain courses in management. Why not to take up those courses? Because when we go to the professional world, we have to work in teams. And when we are working in teams, we are working on projects, we are dealing with people from different backgrounds. Understanding them, understanding the fundamental concepts of those areas becomes also very important. If I have knowledge about just one stream, I'm putting the blinkers on, not moving here and there.
Yes, and it is kind of basically multidisciplinary approach, because one has to know
Yes.
lot of things moderately, knowing moderately lot of things may be fine, but knowing one thing and a lot of expertise is not going to work in the kind of modality career opportunities are evolving, right? So thank you for that insight. Dr. Bhattacharya, I would again come back to you. You are founder director for an institute for policy making and research. How optimistic you are new students joining this curriculum as a career option? What is your past experience?
Yeah, see, it was
We'll hear from you very shortly, because we will go to the students' question section.
right. Till a few years ago, public policy was something which was in the domain people who had been the bureaucrats or technocrats, or who had been masters in public policy or something specialized. They were only working on it. But right now, the government is taking the views from various think tanks, various public policy experts, and they are what the government cannot walk alone. And to implement its proposals, the government is working along with various NGOs, various think tanks. There are also foreign organizations which are working. So there are a huge amount of opportunities. The NGOs, they are working big time, because the government gives these proposals, but the implementation phase, that is almost neglected or negligible when we depend solely on government sources down the line. So somewhere the government relies on these NGOs and on these public policy sectors to come up with certain out-of-the-box solutions. And there is a huge opportunity. There is a bit huge intermingling, and people are being absorbed into government bodies right from this public policy bodies. So a beginning has been made, and in the coming decade, the opportunities are huge.
Okay, so I'll now move on to the students' questions. So the first question goes to Dr. Patnaik. A student is saying, I am studying Bachelor in Medical Laboratory Technology and I want to do MSc in Medical Biochemistry. What is the next step for me to execute? A student, I repeat, sir, a student is saying he is studying Bachelor in Medical Laboratory Technology and willing to do MSc in Medical Biochemistry. What should he do in next?
You say BMLT is a basic course, basic laboratory technique course. There are colleges who gives a master's degree on that. Okay, and he can look around in the year and apply. But BMLT is good enough to find out a good job for him, and the laboratories are huge. And unless he wants to go into the teaching line on the laboratory technicians, there is really no need for getting a master's. BLT will fetch him a job.
But sir, he is willing to do MSc in Medical Biochemistry.
Medical no, he cannot do that. He has to do MSc biochemistry.
Okay.
From BMLT, he cannot do it. He has to be BSc biochemistry.
Okay. I believe your question has been answered. The next question is, I'm preparing for NET GATE exam. I'm looking into the current situation. Getting a proper coaching is tough. What should be my approach and how should I prepare for it? I'm trying to repeat the question to the open house. The student is saying, I'm preparing for NET GATE exam. Looking into the current situation, getting a proper coaching is difficult. what should I do to make my preparations, or what should be my approach? So I think Dr. Banga can answer to the question. Because if he's preparing for NEET, then it seems that he's from engineering or general degree science background.
Yeah, if see at the current situation, COVID situation, physical classes are not going on, so they can look for certain options. There could be some online coaching institutes available, and even a candidate who has done some preparation during the graduation time, they can go to the online and they can find previous question papers with solutions. They are also available. That will let them understand how the paper problem need to be solved, how much time they are taking in solving the problems, because all such entrance exams, NET and GATE, they have negative marking also. And it's not just one subject knowledge you have to utilize in solving the problem. You have to utilize your entire degree, the knowledge that you have gathered during all 3-4 years of your program, that you have to apply. So it is more application based problems that you are getting here. So the more you are practicing on these questions, the more it will be helpful to you in solving and cracking these exams. So online resources are available. There are videos also being available on the net, and they can go through that and understand the concepts behind, and problem solving can be done.
Thank you, Dr. Banga. The next question again goes to Dr. Patnaik. Somebody is asking, post my 12th, I want to study B Farm. How should I be preparing myself?
Please come again.
Yeah, a student is asking, post my 12th, I want to study B Farm. How should I prepare myself?
No, there are B Pharma colleges, pharmacy colleges, and they have an entrance examination, which are usually the biology and chemistry questions of +2 level, 10 or +2 level. You might have to give an entrance, or based on the marks also, you can get a B Pharma seat. And B Pharma has got a good prospectus of getting a job or opening a medical shop, or the careers are, and he can go for M Pharma also.
Thank you, sir. A student is asking today, everything is digitized. Be it class, lecture, everything is online. Is this good, bad for students? So I take the privilege of answering to the question without troubling the panelists again. As Dr. Banga rightly said at the beginning of the talk, that we have to look at the bigger sides and the greater benefits that COVID has actually unleashed. We cannot only complain, sit idle, do not upgrade ourselves, and keep on complaining that then this virus will go and life will go back to normalcy. See, normalcy is a standard which changes over time. So we have to keep ourselves updated, and as Dr. Patnaik said, that it is not survival of the fittest anymore, it is survival of the fittest, and the fittest, as per today's definition, is the person who can accommodate at his maximum flexibility. So you have to adapt to the changes. I believe I answered to the question. And there is another question coming up. A student is asking, I am currently studying BSc Honours Life Science from Presidency University, Kolkata. I want to do research in my near future. How can I prepare myself for NET exam? What are the future prospects of this course? I think Dr. Banga can answer this because his BSc Honours Life Science.
See, if a candidate is pursuing BSc honors in life sciences or chemistry, physics, whatever science, generic sciences they are studying. So first they have to go for their MSc, and once you are postgraduate, then only you can appear for UGC NET examination and get entered into research. So first they have to get into the PG program, and after PG, the candidate can go for the research.
Madam, the student is asking for the kinds of preparation processes that we should follow.
See, for getting into MSc, obviously most of the universities have their own entrances. So, the BSc curriculum itself is very vast, and if you have prepared well during your graduation, you have scored well, obviously you'll be able to crack it. And even there are MSc entrance examination for IITs also. So you can appear for that. You can prepare, and after MSc, you have to obviously appear for the NET and UGC NET, and then you can get into research, PhD.
Thank you all the panelists for being here with us. Your insights, thoughts, and the points that you have raised has really been a great help, and it has been really a very thought-provoking session. I sincerely would like to take this privilege of thanking Dr. P.K. Patnaik, Dr. Sangeeta Banga, Dr. Shayam Bhattacharya for being here with us. And before I wrap up this panel discussion for today, I'd just like to do a quick closer about what our esteemed panelists have shared their points on. We started with Dr. Banga, who is the Dean Academics for Manavratna University and also a professor from the Department of Chemistry. He has given a vivid diaspora opening for the emerging career domains for the students of tomorrow. The primary point being the flexibility in terms of making your career choices and pursuing it to the best of your credibility and commitment. As he rightly said, that no career choice is bad or good. It is you who has to make the choice right. No choice is right, no choice is bad. It can be a kind of a machine learning to artificial intelligence. And she often repeated that by 2050, there will be no single person working on the field. So everything has to be on AutoCAD dependent, smart materials, manufacturing units, where robotics is going to play a big role. And she also referred to the need of virology as we all have witnessed, and she rightly mentioned that the healthcare system and the infrastructural manifestation has rightly depicted the exact scenario of healthcare in India. So you can also study drug design, ecology, food technology, because we are actually looking for non-perishable stuff. And really, really, these things are going to evolve and magnify in many fields in terms of opportunity openers. He also talked about allied subclinical support system like psychologists, nursing, which Dr. Bhattacharya mentioned as well, because these openings will only enhance but never shrink. So that we have to keep in mind. And with that, we will move on. And of course, he mentioned about the enhancing importance of AR VR technology because it is a kind of a virtual reality that we all are living in. Even when you are putting questions whether this is good, bad, or anything else, I was at one point that whether it is good, whether it is bad, it is reality that we all have to live with. So the faster we accept, the faster we evolve. Mr. Patnaik talked about some very basic but yet must remember stuff. He talked about WWPP syndrome. What will people think? Yes, we must come out of that. He also talked about APCOM, that is the model of attitude and compassion model for learning, and he rightly mentioned that hybrid model of career choices is the career model with which the world on tomorrow will evolve. So you can be a doctor, at the same time you can be a legal policy maker for the people who are professionals in the field of medicine. So hybrid model of career can really give you a good push to rise with your career. While we move on to Dr. Shayam Bhattacharya, he talks about conventional careers and their lifelonging, life-lasting opportunities, be it a teaching profession, be it a kind of a UPSC or any other engineering, government service execution, or any agriculture, nursing sort of a stuff. But alongside, he also mentioned the importance of new upcoming models of career like policy making, cybersecurity, data security, and data analytics. Dr. Banga also mentioned this point in her deliverables that it is 30 to 35% of the national allocation on which data securities and data integrities are being taken care of. Because yes, data is everything, but knowledge without skill, as Professor Patnaik said, is nothing. So you have to have knowledge, you have to have information, but please understand, please remember that we are going to step into an era which will be all best. So please be motivated enough to pursue your career because career is not something which only gives you money at the end of the month. It is something you have to eat, sleep, drink, bath, and to live with. And that's you for a long time in your life.
Do you have a half a minute for me?
Sir, please, we would like to conclude with that then.
You see, people must know that government jobs are constricting. Government jobs are only 11% of the jobs. So people should develop entrepreneurship.
Very
Private
important
jobs
point.
is the answer. That security of a government job will not be there in future. So people should develop that entrepreneurship mindset. Atmanirbhar, whatever it is, the nation is telling, that is more important. Earlier it was government job is a khushi job. that won't be there in future.
Very important point to mention, sir. Thank you for adding that to our closer. Yes, instead of seeking for an employment from somebody, be your own boss, and it is always wonderful being your own boss. Entrepreneurship can really unleash a great horizon of challenges, opportunities, faith, and new successes, not only for you, but also for many to whom you can set up yourself as an idol. With that, I'd like to conclude the session for today. Thank you, Aditi Education, for this wonderful initiative, opportunity for us, as well as for the students for unleashing knowledges. And thank you all the respected panelists once again for their insightful thoughts, work, and research presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. You are a nice moderator.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Chandrima. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Banga. Thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya. Thank you.